Full script. My daughter-in-law hired a hitman to kill me. He was my old student. My daughter-in-law paid $15,000 to have me murdered. The hitman she hired? I gave him his first gold star in 2nd grade. Small world, isn't it? But here's what Rachel didn't know. Marcus remembered everything. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story gets darker than you think. The knock came at 9:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I was watching the news and they just started the weather segment. Living alone at 73, you notice these things. Every sound becomes significant when silence is your main companion. I looked through the peephole and saw a man in his early 30s, well dressed in a dark jacket, holding what looked like a manila envelope. Maybe a courier, I thought. Though 9:45 seemed late for deliveries. I opened the door with the chain still attached. Can I help you? The man's face was partially shadowed by my porch light, but I could see his eyes clearly. Dark, focused, with a strange intensity that made my pulse quicken. Mrs. Patterson. His voice was soft, almost gentle. Linda Patterson. Yes. He held up the envelope, and that's when I saw it. My photograph clipped to the outside. Not a recent photo either. This was from my retirement party at Riverside Elementary, 3 years ago. I was cutting a cake surrounded by students and teachers. My breath caught. The man's hand moved to his jacket, and for a split second, I saw the outline of something metal. A gun. I need to come inside, he said quietly. Please don't make this difficult. Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door, to run, to scream for help. But something in his expression stopped me. He didn't look like a cold-blooded killer. He looked conflicted, almost pained. Who sent you? I whispered. Someone who wants you gone, he said. Then he paused, studying my face more carefully under the porch light. His expression shifted from professional detachment to something else. Confusion. Recognition. Wait. His voice cracked slightly. Mrs. Patterson. Riverside Elementary. 2nd grade. I stared at him, my mind racing through 35 years of students. Thousands of faces, thousands of names. He stepped closer to the porch light, and suddenly I saw past the adult features to the child underneath. The same dark eyes, the same slightly crooked smile he'd flash when he finally solved a math problem. Marcus. I breathed. Marcus Chen. His hand dropped away from his jacket. The professional mask crumbled completely. You remember me? Of course I remember you. My voice was shaking now. You were the boy who couldn't read until Christmas break. We stayed after school every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 months. Marcus closed his eyes like he was in pain. You bought me my first chapter book. Where the Red Fern Grows. You said every boy needed a good dog story. I did remember. Marcus had been one of those kids who fell through the cracks, immigrant parents working 3 jobs, no one at home to help with homework, sliding further behind every week. I'd seen something in him though, a spark that just needed kindling. What are you doing here, Marcus? But I already knew. The photograph, the late hour, the gun. I just needed to hear him say it. Your daughter-in-law hired me to kill you. He said it flatly, without emotion. Paid me $15,000. Half up front, half when it's done. The words hung in the air between us like poison gas. Rachel, I said softly. Of course it was Rachel. Marcus nodded. She found me through some dark web forum. Said you were a burden, that you were draining your son's inheritance, that it would be a mercy. He laughed bitterly. She had a whole story prepared. Made you sound like some cruel, manipulative monster. And you believed her. I didn't care if I believed her. Marcus's voice was cold now. I needed the money. This is what I do, Mrs. Patterson. This is what I became. The weight of that statement settled over me. The bright-eyed 7-year-old who'd cried with joy when he finally read his first full sentence had grown into a man who killed people for money. What happened to you, Marcus? He flinched like I'd struck him. Life happened. Bad choices. Worse circumstances. He gestured vaguely. Does it matter? Point is, I'm standing on your porch with a job to do. Are you going to do it? Long silence. A car drove past on the street behind him. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a dog barked. I don't know, Marcus said finally. I've been sitting in my car for 2 hours trying to decide. You're just a job. An address. A photograph. I've done this 14 times before without hesitation. But this time is different. This time, the target is the woman who taught me that I wasn't stupid. That I could learn anything if someone just took the time to show me. His voice broke. You stayed late every week. You bought me books with your own money. You called my mom. Do you remember that? You called her at the restaurant where she worked and told her in Mandarin that I was brilliant. I did remember. Marcus's mother had cried on the phone, grateful that someone saw potential in her son. She still has the report card from that year, Marcus continued. The one where I got a B in reading. She framed it. It's hanging in her kitchen in San Francisco. Does she know what you do for a living? She thinks I'm in private security. Marcus laughed hollowly. Which I guess is technically true. I provide very permanent security solutions. Marcus, why are you telling me all this? He met my eyes directly for the first time. Because I need you to understand that I'm going to do this job. Rachel paid me, and in my world, you don't take money and then back out. That's how you end up dead yourself. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. So this is goodbye. No. Marcus's expression hardened. This is business. But you taught me something else back in 2nd grade, Mrs. Patterson. You taught me that every problem has multiple solutions. You just have to be creative enough to find them. He pulled out his phone and showed me a series of text messages. All from Rachel. Detailed instructions about my routine, my medications, how to make it look like a heart attack or accidental fall. Your daughter-in-law is very thorough, Marcus said. She's been planning this for months. Even sent me your medical records, stolen from your doctor's office somehow. She wanted me to know about your blood pressure medication, said I could use it to stage an overdose. I felt sick. Rachel had been in my house dozens of times. Smiled at me over Sunday dinners. Hugged me at Christmas. All while plotting my murder. How long have I known Rachel? I asked quietly. According to her, about 8 years. Married your son David 7 years ago. 7 years of lies. 7 years of fake affection while she waited for the right moment to eliminate me. Why now? I asked. Why did she decide to kill me now? Marcus scrolled through more messages. Something about a trust fund. Apparently, your late husband left a substantial amount of money that transfers to David only after you're gone. Rachel's tired of waiting. My husband Thomas had died 5 years ago. He'd been careful with money his whole life, invested wisely, and yes, he'd left David a considerable inheritance. But it was structured to provide for me first, with everything going to David after my death. Rachel had been patient for 5 years. I guess her patience had finally run out. So what's your creative solution? I asked Marcus. He smiled, and for just a moment, I saw the 7-year-old boy again. We are going to give Rachel exactly what she paid for. Then we are going to make her regret every decision that led to this moment. Marcus came inside, and we sat at my kitchen table like it was a parent-teacher conference instead of a murder-for-hire negotiation. He laid out his plan with the kind of methodical detail that made it clear he'd done this before. Rachel thinks she's been careful, Marcus explained. She used encrypted messaging, paid me in cryptocurrency, never met me in person. But people who think they're smart often make the stupidest mistakes. What kind of mistakes? She kept records. Screenshots of our conversations, copies of the Bitcoin transactions, even a handwritten note about timing and methods. She probably planned to destroy them after it was done, but right now, they're sitting in a folder on her laptop labeled renovation plans. I almost laughed. She's documenting her own crime. People do it more than you'd think. They can't help themselves. They want proof of how clever they were. Marcus pulled out a small device that looked like a USB drive. This is a key logger. I need you to plug it into Rachel's computer next time she's at your house. It'll copy everything on her hard drive and send it to a secure server. She's not exactly inviting herself over these days. Then you'll have to invite her. Tell her you want to update your will. That usually gets people's attention. The plan was audacious and terrifying. Over the next 3 hours, Marcus walked me through every step. We'd stage my death. He had contacts who could create a false death certificate and medical report. Rachel would pay him the second half of his fee, thinking the job was complete. But instead of disappearing, Marcus would hand all the evidence to the FBI. "Won't you go to prison too?" I asked. Marcus's expression was unreadable. "Probably. But I'm tired, Mrs. Patterson. I've been tired for a long time. Maybe it's time I paid for my choices. There has to be another way." There isn't. Not one where Rachel faces real consequences and you stay safe. He stood up to leave. But knowing that I helped put her away, that I protected the woman who once protected me, that's worth whatever happens next. At the door, Marcus paused. "I'm sorry for what I became. You deserved a better return on your investment." "Marcus." I waited until he looked at me. "You just chose not to kill someone. That's not nothing. That's everything." The next morning, I called Rachel. My hands were shaking as I dialed, but my voice was steady. "Linda, what a surprise." Rachel's voice was honey-sweet, the same tone she'd used for 7 years. "I've been thinking about my will," I said. "Thomas's estate, the trust fund, all of it. I want to make some changes, but I need your help with the computer work. You know I'm hopeless with technology." Brief silence on the other end. I could practically hear her mind working, calculating odds and opportunities. "Of course," Rachel said warmly. "I'd be happy to help. When works for you?" "How about Friday afternoon? Say, 2 p.m. "Perfect. I'll bring my laptop. We can look at everything together." After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Not from fear, though I was terrified. Not from betrayal, though that cut deep. I cried because somewhere along the way, the sweet boy who'd struggled with reading had turned into a man who killed people for money. And I cried because even now, after everything, he was trying to protect me. Friday arrived with grey skies and cold rain. Rachel showed up at 2 p.m. exactly, carrying her expensive laptop bag and wearing her designer smile. "Linda, you look tired," she said, kissing my cheek. The kiss felt like snake venom. "Have you been sleeping okay?" "Oh, you know. Lots on my mind lately." We settled in my living room. Rachel opened her laptop and started pulling up legal websites and estate planning templates. While she was distracted, I pressed the USB device Marcus had given me into the port on the side of her computer. Nothing happened. No beeps, no notifications. Just silent data theft. "So what kind of changes did you want to make?" Rachel asked, her eyes glittering with interest. "Well, I've been thinking about David's inheritance. The trust fund Thomas set up." Rachel leaned forward. "Yes. I want to make sure David gets everything he deserves. Nothing more, nothing less." Something in my tone must have registered because Rachel's smile faltered slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean I know about the $15,000 you paid Marcus Chen to kill me." The color drained from Rachel's face. For 3 full seconds, she didn't move, didn't breathe. Then she laughed, but it sounded forced and shrill. "Linda, what are you talking about? Who's Marcus Chen?" "The man you hired through a dark web forum. The one you sent my medical records to. The one you gave detailed instructions about making my death look natural." Rachel stood up quickly. "You're confused. Maybe we should reschedule this for when you're feeling more clear-headed." "Sit down, Rachel." Something in my voice made her obey. She sank back into the chair, her hands gripping the armrests. I know everything, I continued. Every message, every Bitcoin transaction, every cold-blooded detail of your plan. And right now, while we've been talking, Marcus's keylogger has been copying every file on your laptop, including the folder labeled renovation plans. Rachel's eyes went to her computer, then back to me. You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled out my phone and played an audio recording. Rachel's voice came through clearly, discussing payment terms and methods with someone whose voice was electronically distorted. That could be anyone, Rachel said, but her voice was shaking. The FBI doesn't think so. I sent them the recording this morning, along with copies of your cryptocurrency transactions and your handwritten notes. They're very interested in talking to you. Rachel's professional mask was completely gone now. What remained was something ugly and desperate. You can't prove anything. I'll say you're a senile old woman making up stories. Except Marcus is willing to testify. He's turning himself in and cooperating fully with federal investigators. Apparently, helping put you away is worth whatever prison time he faces. Rachel stood up again, this time backing toward the door. This isn't over. Actually, it is. The FBI is waiting outside right now. Marcus called them 15 minutes ago. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Through the window, I could see two people in FBI windbreakers standing on my porch. Rachel looked like a trapped animal. Her eyes darted around my living room, looking for an escape that didn't exist. Why? I asked quietly. Why did you want me dead, Rachel? The money would have come eventually. Why couldn't you wait? For a moment, something honest crossed Rachel's face. Because I'm tired of pretending. Tired of Sunday dinners and fake smiles and listening to your boring stories about students from 40 years ago. You were supposed to be a sweet little inheritance, not a permanent fixture. She laughed bitterly. David kept saying Mom's healthy, she could live another 20 years. I couldn't wait that long. The FBI knocked again, louder this time. You should get that, Rachel said coldly. I opened the door. The agents showed their badges and asked for Rachel by name. She went quietly, spine straight, refusing to look at me as they led her away in handcuffs. After they left, I sat in my living room for a long time, listening to the silence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It's done. Thank you for giving me a chance to do one good thing. I typed back. Thank you for remembering. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response came. 2 months later, I attended Rachel's arraignment. She was charged with solicitation of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and a half-dozen other federal offenses. David sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, refusing to look at me. He'd chosen to believe Rachel's version of events, that I'd framed her, that I was the real villain. Maybe someday he'd understand the truth. Maybe not. Either way, I'd protected myself, just like Thomas would have wanted. Marcus's case was more complicated. He'd confessed to 14 murders, but his cooperation with federal investigators earned him a reduced sentence. 20 years instead of life. His lawyer argued that his action in refusing to kill me and instead turning himself in showed genuine remorse and rehabilitation potential. I wrote a letter to the judge. I told him about the 7-year-old boy who'd struggled to read, about the teenager who'd sent me a thank you card when he graduated high school, about the man who'd chosen conscience over cash when it mattered most. I don't know if it helped, but I needed to say it. The day before Marcus was transferred to federal prison, they allowed me a brief visit. We sat across from each other in a stark room with guards watching, separated by a metal table. How's your mom? I asked. Marcus smiled sadly. Devastated. Proud. Confused. All at the same time. She wants to know how her son became a killer and a hero in the same story. What did you tell her? That I made terrible choices, but I tried to make one good choice at the end. He paused. She said to tell you thank you. For teaching me when no one else would. For seeing something in me worth saving. There's still something worth saving, Marcus. 20 years isn't forever. I'll be 52 when I get out. If I get out, then you'll be 52 with a chance to start over. That's more than a lot of people get. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus said, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd made different choices back then? If I'd stayed in school, gone to college, became something other than this?" "Every teacher wonders that about every student," I said. "But you can't live in the what ifs. You can only work with what is. What is that I'm a convicted murderer going to federal prison. What is that you saved my life. That counts for something." They ended the visit shortly after. As the guards led Marcus away, he turned back one last time. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm going to read again. In prison. I'm going to read every book I can find. Make you proud somehow." My eyes filled with tears. "You already did." 6 months after Rachel's conviction, David finally called me. His voice was hollow, empty of the anger that had fueled our last conversation. "Mom, I'm sorry." Those 3 words carried the weight of everything unsaid between us. "I know you are, sweetheart." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her because if she was guilty, it meant I'd been blind to who she really was for 7 years. It meant I'd chosen her over you. "You chose the life you wanted," I said gently. "That's not a crime." "She tried to have you killed." "Yes." "Because she didn't want to wait for an inheritance." "Yes." Long silence. I could hear David breathing, could imagine him in his apartment, surrounded by the wreckage of his marriage and his family. "Can I come over?" he asked finally. "For dinner? Like we used to?" "Of course. Sunday at 6. I'll bring the wine." Life has a strange way of coming full circle. The boy I taught to read became the man who saved my life. The daughter-in-law I welcomed became the woman who wanted me dead. The son who abandoned me found his way back through the ruins of betrayal. I'm 73 years old now, living alone in the same house where Rachel planned my death. But I'm not afraid anymore. Fear is what they wanted. Fear that would make me small, make me weak, make me disappear quietly without fighting back. Instead, I fought. With Marcus's help, with evidence and courage and the kind of stubborn determination that comes from 35 years of teaching children that they're stronger than they think. Rachel is serving 25 years in federal prison. Her parole hearings are legendary for their brevity. The board takes one look at the premeditated nature of her crime and sends her back to her cell. Marcus is at FCI Mendota, a medium-security facility in California. He writes me letters sometimes. He's teaching other inmates to read, running a literacy program through the prison library. His mother visits him every month. And me? I'm still here. Still teaching, actually. I volunteer at the Juvenile Detention Center twice a week, working with kids who remind me of Marcus, smart, lost, one bad choice away from a life they can't escape. Someone asked me once if I forgave Rachel. I said I didn't know. Forgiveness feels like something too big to carry alone. But I forgave Marcus. That much I know for certain. Because at the end of the day, we are all just trying to survive the choices we've made. Some of us get second chances. Some of us don't. Marcus chose to give me a second chance at life. In return, I choose to believe he deserves one too. That's what teachers do. We believe in potential, even when the world says it's too late. Especially when the world says it's too late. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments.